All right, firstly, Jaheel, let's start from the beginning. Growing up as a kid, was it football first for you? Was it trucks first or both at the same time, before you entered high school and stuff like that?
It was always both, to be honest. I think the first training I went to, sporting training that I went to was actually track and field. And I remember I was in like grade one or grade two at VAS. And I remember this day distinctly because I remember everybody was laughing at me because like when I got to training, I just put on my spikes. You have to warm up in your track shoes and then you do your drills and put on your spikes. But I actually just did put on my spikes as I reached because I was so excited and ready, to run. So I think it was track and field first, but then, in prep school, I guess they were like, just feeling out everybody. But then it was, football season come before track and field. So I did play football. I was actually probably one of the youngest to make the senior team because my brother was there at the time. My brother named Jamie, he was there. So he was a goalkeeper. So I used to play with him. He was a goalkeeper, and I was younger, so I used to play on the bench first, and then I come on. But yeah, it was both handing and equal. I never did tracks first or football first.
I mean, we know exactly, the your father and what he has done for Jamaican sporting landscape. Did he give advice to say lean in this direction or that direction, or he was like, I'll support whatever path you take, whether football or athletics?
Oh yeah, most definitely. The latter one, he was just like, whatever you want to do. You just, he obviously will support me. I mean, I think what that up it was 2013, right? We were playing the Caribbean qualifiers for the under 17 World Cup. And we played two games. We played Bermuda and Antigua.
Yeah. Water.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, over Waterhouse. I scored three the first game. It was kind of just me and Fleming, Junior Flemings at the time. But I had a love for track and field. But for track and field, it was that year was what's it called? World Youth, right? So I couldn't do both because it would clash. It's not just like training for champs. You actually this is on the world stage now. So I actually had to make a decision. So at the time, I just leaned towards track and field. To be very honest, as I was telling my wife earlier, if it was to make that decision, no, I'd probably pick football, of course. But I don't regret my decision. To be very honest, I love track and field. I'm fully invested in football. Also, a lot of people don't know, but I am a US soccer certified coach and I'm going to be doing my C license later on this year. I have my D license already, so that's me, staying involved in football because that's what I want to do after track and field.
Mhm. Yeah, as you know, I remember the under 17 championships, we had back-to-back wins there. If there was interest overseas, like a contract that was coming your way, would you perhaps have leaned in the football direction in your view?
That's a good question. Um, Maybe if there was something concrete, maybe I wouldn't have a chance to think about um track and field or having a decision. It would be just solely, football because as a youth, growing up watching all the Premier League teams and what you have it, your dream is to always, whether it be to win an Olympics or to play in the English Premier League. So I feel like at that time, which if I had a solid offer in football, I would definitely choose football. But I mean, I, I remember one game we played St. George's in the stadium, and the coach at the time, what's his called? The white hair, Schaefer.
Yeah, yeah, yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. So he actually reached out to my coach and was like, he's inviting me to the national team training camp and all that. But the season was ending, and I know that I had a big year in track and field coming up. So I I declined that offer, to be honest. I was like, no, I'm gonna focus on track and field, and so that was the story with track and field. My father was just like, anything you do, just part ways respectfully. I remember one time there was almost this argument in the house because I was like, we were to go to camp, national under 17 camp. And I was just like, you know what? I'm not going. I'm not going. And then he was just like, you can't do it like that. You have to can't burn your bridges. I think that's what he was mostly upset about, to be honest. But I reached out to what I needed to reach out to, and to Coach Downswell and the manager at the time. I can't remember her name right now. But up to this day, me and Downswell are still cool. There's no hard feelings or anything. But in that moment, that's just what I felt was right.
Yeah. I mean, in this time, I know you still love football. So do you say right now, if I was doing football, maybe it would be me and Leon Bailey up top, maybe it would be me and Antonio. Do you sometimes think or meditate on certain things like that?
Most definitely, it's natural. In recent years, I have been watching a lot of football. Surprisingly, back then I never really used to watch it a lot, to be honest. I used to just play it. I never used to watch it. Funny enough, I never really trained for it that much, because I had track, and track took up most of my time. If you know track and field, you train from like September and your season finish in like August. And the Manning Cup season starts in September, so there was no real time to really train for it, so but definitely I definitely would see myself at the top. And I still wouldn't rule it out 100% yet. I'm 26. It's still old in the football world, but I feel like with good quality, nobody will turn down a good quality footballer.
Yeah, I understand what you mean. And as you said, you made a decision, no regrets. So this is the path you're on. You're representing our country and so on and so forth. World Championships 2017, I had asked you, in the mixed zone, if you missed the 110 hurdles and you were saying, no, not really. I just want to talk about the hurdles a bit. How did you develop, that passion and love for the hurdles?
I actually didn't even remember that. But now that you bring it up, it kind of brought back some memories, to be honest. But how I get into hurdles, I went to Woolman's, right? So I went to Woolman's as a long jumper, believe it or not. I came third in champs in long jump for Woolman's, and I did 400 also. So when I went there, the first year, I actually ran 400 at champs in 2010. A lot of people might not have known that. And when I in second form now, I didn't really want to do 400 anymore, right? So I was just at training, browsing everything, just doing my long jump training, and the hurdler guys were there late, and I didn't really want to go home. So I was just like, let me give this a try. There were two guys there before me, and I just took my time, learned the event. The greatest thing for me at the time was I was really faster than those two guys. So I never really had the technique like them. So I was just pretty much just clearing the hurdles, running in between. I would still beat them. So, my coach at the time, Christopher Harley, he just saw the talent and just, me gave him more attention with regards to the hurdles because, it's a very technical event. Because you also have a lot of hurdlers that are slow, but because the technique is really good, so they really are at an advantage over someone that's probably really fast, So, but going forward, I started in 400 again, and 400 and sprint hurdles. And if you know how the champ schedule was back then, that's kind of a tough double because after the 400, you literally have like an hour, and then what's that called, the 110. Literally, as the 400 is finishing, you have the sprint hurdles crew coming out now, so that they start with the class 4, 3, 2 girls, and then they make their way to us. So, and then after that, I was like, I can't really do both of them anymore. So that's why my coach did just combine the two of them. He said it to me 2013, and I was like, nah, I'm not doing that. That's too hard. But then he just said, just trust him, and the rest is history. As for 110 now, that in the professional scene, I tried it in training, but I didn't really grow much out of high school. So, but you know, the hurdles get taller, so it was kind of difficult for me to grasp going over that height, and it just felt awkward to me. So, I didn't really dabble in it anymore.
Yeah. And you spoke about 2010, great year for Wolmer's championship, historic in that sense. Was that your first year champs?
Yeah, that was my first year champs. First year at Wolmer's, we got to Wolmer's 09, and then 2010 was champs. I didn't make the finals. I did run the 400. I made it to the semis. I didn't make the finals. And I did the 4x1. I only ran the heats in the 4x1.
Yeah, but as you know, it was fantastic, your school winning the trophy. Tell me about the experience you competing at champs the first time, seeing the crowd and the maroon colors at the end as you clinched the title.
Yo, that was a very epic experience, to be very honest, because as a youngster, um I remember that last race from the starting of the Saturday when doing X. I remember that champs vividly. I remember everything. Um Funny enough, before champs every year, Mr. Riley would like carry us into a meeting and count up the points with us, like with an estimator, or say, oh, we're supposed to have this much amount of points going into this day and that. So Extal, he didn't even have Extal to win the 400. So everything was just going right for us, to be honest. But that year, I remember that 4x4, especially we were all on the cycle track sitting on waiting, and who ran the last leg? Extal ran the last leg. We were all waiting on him to cross the line, and I think we even ran on the track before even the last day's team finished the race. It was just such a memorable moment, man. And you're just running up and down, screaming. But I'm glad I got to experience that. And the only thing I regret at Ulmas is not winning Manning Cup.
Yeah, I mean, you spoke about, what Dwayne Extell, how much of a leader he was. You had other key persons, Julian Fort and many others. Did any of them give you words of advice as a youngster coming through the system, give you words of encouragement, letting you know that the future is in store for you and everything like that?
Mm-hmm. Most definitely, Extal is that person. From the day he walked through that door, from the first track and field meeting, he was always that person to everybody. Julian wasn't really the talkative person. He was just, about his business, and still cool, still talk to everybody. But Extal, in regards to like motivation and all of that, he was definitely Extal. He's very passionate up to this day, so he was that person, especially for me, because we used to train together. Well, not together, but we did the same things in training. So we were always training at the same time.
And the experience that you had at Champs, would you say that it prepared you for what lied ahead? Representing your country at the junior and senior levels, competing abroad. Would you say that Champs prepared you for what lied ahead in your career?
There's this saying that a lot of track and field athletes say, or we always say amongst ourselves, is that if you can compete at Champs, you can compete anywhere in the world. Because I mean, no, the crowd's not really thick. I hope this year it's much more, active, or a lot more people in the crowd. But back then, you couldn't hear the starter properly. So the atmosphere, especially walking out of the tunnel, we always say that is like the most tiring walk of your life, from Stadium East to the track. Everything, you're thinking about everything. But from you can compete at champs, you can compete anywhere in the world. So that's why when I compete overseas or at international meets, I mean, I'm still nervous, but I know how to handle it.
Yeah. And I mean, you reflect on the experiences that you've had, in terms of winning medals at junior championships, youth Olympics, Commonwealth Games, etc. Is there one moment in your senior career that stands out more than the others, or you take everything like in your stride in a sense?
Um, to be honest, making the finals last year at World Champs was, I wouldn't say the highlight, but it was the one that was most important to me in every way possible. Um, you know, in track and field, everything we did it with your contract, everything, nobody wants to sign somebody that's not making the finals. You get me? So in the sense of that, yeah, that was the most important. But I can't really pinpoint. I can't really pinpoint one that I'll say, oh, but it would be definitely that one.
And for you personally, 2023, it's a busy year ahead when you're bearing in mind World Champs, Panam, CSE.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the goals that you're hoping to achieve this year, this calendar year?
Well, the main goal for me this year is I want to firstly make the finals at Worlds again, and then actually get a medal this year. But you can't achieve all of that without. I always tell people that the trials is the most important track meet of your life. Because if you don't make it past the trials for whatever reason, then those goals you can't achieve those goals. So one is to make the teams and then take it from there. But ultimately, I want to get a medal.
And finally, what advice would you give to, upcoming athletes that will be competing at champs as well, both that, represent, your school and also other athletes as well that will be experiencing champs? Any advice you have for them in terms of their experience over the 5 days?
Yes, one is they're pretty much cliche, but just to hydrate, let go of all distractions. It's just 5 days to just lock in on yourself and hone your craft and do what you've been doing in training. You don't want to train for how much 5 months from September or whenever to just come to come to champs to just to participate. So you just really sit back, reflect on all those times that the training hurt, and just put your best foot forward and give your best shot every time.
All right, Jaheel, look, thanks for your time. Really appreciate it. Keep up the work and, all the best for the season that lies ahead.